Call a meeting to order. At this time, Councilperson Susan Meadows will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God, thank you for this beautiful fall day. Thank you for our community and its citizens, and thank you for the leaders who help to make this a good community. Guide us as we go through tonight, making decisions, and help us to make good choices for the benefit of all. Amen.
Thank you very much. Roll call. Mary?
Meadows,
Here.
Beach,
Here.
Hurt,
Here.
Carter,
Here.
Ehlers, here, Eaton,
Here.
Young,
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Thank you very much. Hearing of citizens' comments. If there's anyone here who would like to make a comment, now is the time, and I'll give a few minutes before we call Jordan up. I don't believe we have anyone, so at this time, Jordan, if you would come up. Jordan is the operations manager for Advanced Disposal, and he's here to make a little report on the,
Address some issues.
yes, the issues.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I know as of late, we've had some complaints. We've had an influx of calls to the Water Department, to Public Works, and also to our facility, to our customer service reps in Macon. I know we've had some failings here recently in the past several weeks. We have had some personnel changes, and we have had some turnover. That being the issues, we haven't had consistency with the same driver running the route in Boonville. With that being said, we've seen what happens when that takes place. We're having misses. A lot of our port stops have been getting missed, especially, and they're pretty upset, and justifiably so. So the game plan going forward is to have that consistency. All right, we've been short a little help, so we've had recent applicants. As a matter of fact, 3 out of the 4 last applicants have been Boonville individuals that live in Boonville, and so far, going through the background checks and things of that nature, it looks pretty positive that we're going to be hiring several citizens of Boonville. But we're also going to have consistency on that route. The same driver on that route, day in, day out, is going to it's going to nip in the buds a lot of these issues that we're having. When we do some bouncing around and some juggling with drivers, which we've had to do due to being short-staffed, we've seen the influx of calls with misses and the customer service lacking here lately. I have full confidence that when we do have a consistent driver on this route, that we will see the calls start to diminish, which we have seen here lately. I myself went out and actually ran the route, ran about 70% of the route today, so I could get my eyes on it, get my hands on it, and see exactly what we're dealing with, in order to better communicate to my drivers the who, what, when, where's, and hows. We've had some communication problems here recently, more on our end. I think some of the paperwork is old. When we have some of our handicapped customers, the description of the house or the directions on where to get it, on where to get the garbage hasn't been up to speed here, so to say. They'll see a garbage can in front, and lo and behold, it's sitting around back on the corner, garbage bag on the back patio, and our notes, our notes aren't saying that. So we're updating our notes, updating our route sheets, and we'll begin to start to have a consistent driver on that route. I will say, in all humility, that I came here a little over 2 years ago. I know we were having issues. Back then, we nipped it in the bud and took care of it. And I'd have to say that with my 2-year tenure here, that we're not going to run and hide from the issues. We're going to hide from the problems. We'll deal with it head on. That's why I'm here, to assure you that we'll do that. And I will do that going forward. And like I said, we've already seen the calls start to come down a little bit, and I think we will continue to see the calls come down, and service will be back up where it was before. I have full confidence that this will take place. That being said, hit me with it.
Anybody got any questions? Morris?
Probably the main complaint that I've had is when someone calls in, they tell them that there will be somebody out to pick up the trash and nobody shows up.
The reason being is that I no longer have a dispatcher locally here in Boonville. Has not made things easy, but there are solutions. Okay, the protocol for communication for a missed pickup, going to the customer service center in Macon and reaching me has recently been changed. All right, it's been kind of a game of telephone, and it has not been efficient, and it has not worked. So we've changed that, and with doing so, I think that's why we've seen the service kind of have an uptick here lately, because it's coming directly to me, directly to my phone, which I have on me 24/7. Literally, that doesn't mean call me at 10 o'clock at night, but I do get the calls at 10 o'clock at night, which is okay. But that's why I think we've seen the calls diminish, is that we did have a hiccup with the communication getting to me and the specifics on what we need to do in order to take care of our customers. And since we've kind of changed that protocol, I think it's going to be a lot better going forward, a lot better.
So Jordan, if one of the council members gets a phone call from someone and said, hey, my trash didn't get picked up, who should they call?
Me,
Okay.
call
Your
me.
personal number, or what number
I
do you want
didn't
to
bring
give
business
out?
cards. I'm sorry. I brought them before. I usually keep them down by ML at Public Works, and I'll have a stack there. And I'll swing by City Hall sometime tomorrow and drop off a stack. Okay. But there's a cell phone number on there. Call the cell phone. It's okay. And if I don't answer, sometimes I'm busy. Sometimes I'm in meetings. Just leave a message, please, and I guarantee I will get back to you.
What's that number?
It is. Oh, Lord. I'm guaranteeing better service now, isn't it? It's 621-2095. And feel free to call it.
660?
Yeah, 660, yes.
In emergency only.
It's okay. It's okay. It's a cell phone, and if you're having issues, it's my job to address them and make sure we take care of them. And so if you are having issues or if you have questions, feel free to call. And one other thing that I forgot, we're trying to, we utilize a GPS system on our trucks. And so what I've been trying to do here lately is that when we have drivers running the route, they might not be running it in a particular order that it was ran in for 2 years. And with that being said, I know we require the people of Boonville to have their garbage up by a certain time, but I understand that your trash is picked up a certain way for several years. You're used to it being picked up that way. But I have noticed that we have been in areas a little bit earlier now, maybe than we have been before, or a little bit later, vice versa. We're trying to get back to the way that the previous driver ran the route, but it's not always going to be perfect. With that being said, if you call me and I can tell you, give you the whereabouts of where the truck is, what area they've been in, and sometimes we can head some things like that off because people think they're missed, or they think their street hasn't been serviced, but our driver just hasn't been there yet. So that might calm some of the calls as well. But like I said, I've been here 2 years. I'd like to pride myself and my employees on the service we've provided, and I'm confident that it'll be back to that level here shortly.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have some comments. I have no idea why you got rid of our beloved Barry, but Barry was an excellent worker. The first day that the new man picked up my trash, he dropped and broke some glass, didn't pick it up. My wife had to go out and sweep it up. And Barry, as I told you before, when we had all that snow year before last, he came down to the side of my house, picked up my trash, put it, and dumped it. And we told you all about it, and you all didn't even go back and tell him. He was a good worker, and I'm going to take up for him. I had no complaints. Every time I talked to somebody about Barry, they talked about how good a job he did. So.
Well, I will say that, yes, I think everybody could agree that he did a fantastic job. I deal with my employees ethically, morally, and honestly. So believe me, any feedback I've ever gotten is forwarded on to my employees. We even have a board where we post compliments. With that being said, the goal is to get back to that level of service, and we will. I understand that Barry was appreciated in this town, and I appreciated Barry's hard work as much as the residents of Boonville. I can't go into specific matters into the employee matters, for their protection and mine as well. But we will have an individual out here that will take care of Boonville the way it has been taken care of in the past. Our service is what's most important to me, my operations, and to our employees. So it will get back to where it was before. I have full confidence in that.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much, Jordan,
Thank
for
you for
coming this
having me,
evening.
and feel free to call. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other public comments?
Oh, I don't want him to leave yet. Hang on a minute.
Better hurry.
Hey, can you wait a minute? It's just for him, and he gets up and leaves. Liz Davis, Ward 2. I was at the last city council meeting, so I was aware of the problems that were going on, so I was aware. So we had a minor little glitch on our trash that week, and I waited, I called customer service, I got through to the Macon office, I guess it was, and if their customer service is any indication of the rest of the company, they're going to do really great, because I don't remember the lady's name, but she was first class, very polite, assured me the problem would be taken care of. No attitude about the fact that I called or anything. Just first class, hang on to those people. And if everybody's just that good, thumbs up to you. And I wanted to thank you personally.
Okay, thank you, Liz. Any other public comments? This is the time for you to go to the podium. Seeing and hearing none, we will move along to approval of the minutes of the October 6th council meeting. Those were in your packet, and you've had time to look at those. Any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, they will stand as presented. Consent items, we have none. Presentation of accounts and claims. Mary, if you would please read those.
Ordinance appropriating money. Be it ordained by the Council of the City of Boonville as follows. Section 1. For the purpose of paying salaries and various accounts against the City of Boonville, which have been allowed by the Council at the regular meeting thereof on October 20th, 2014, the sum of $555,517.23. General Fund, $156,250.37. Sanitation, $31,997.33. CIP tax, $6,886.20. Waterworks, $12,228.89. Capital projects, $62,739.48. Wastewater, $26,702.39. Tourism, $11,366.12. Gaming, $247,346.45. Parks Water, 0. Section 2, the bookkeeper is hereby authorized and instructed to draw checks on the respective city bank accounts in favor of the persons whose salaries and accounts have been allowed as above, amounting to $555,517.23, being the total amount of money above appropriated. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after its passage. First reading on October 20th, 2014. Read for the second time this 20th day of October 2014, since the copy was made available prior to the meeting.
Second reading, title only.
Ordinance appropriating money.
Mayor, make a motion to approve this.
Do I hear a second? Becky?
Second.
Questions or comments? Roll call.
Meadows.
Yes.
Beach.
Yes.
Hurt.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Ehlers.
Yes.
Heaton.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Unfinished business. Second reading of bill number 2014-024, approving settlement with CenturyLink Telephone.
An ordinance for the City of Boonville, Missouri, approving a settlement with CenturyLink and assigning a percentage of the settlement proceeds to the Missouri Municipal League, providing an effective date therefore, and repealing all ordinances in conflict with this ordinance.
Morris?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Do I hear a second? Ned?
Second.
Okay. Questions or comments? Ned or Earl or Megan, did you have any comments?
No.
Roll call.
Meadows,
Yes.
Beach,
Yes.
Hurt,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Ayers.
Yes.
Heaton,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
New business. First reading of bill number 2014-025, authorizing a mutual aid agreement with Cooper County.
An ordinance of the City of Boonville, Missouri, authorizing a mutual aid agreement by and between the City of Boonville and Cooper County for extra-jurisdictional and emergency law enforcement services, providing an effective date therefore, and repealing all ordinances in conflict with this ordinance.
Thank you, Mary. Report. Oh,
Madam
yes.
This seems to be a little complicated issue. I wondered if we could just ask a few questions about it now.
Okay.
Were you going through it? Yeah. Going through it, I just had a few questions. I guess first and foremost would be, why now? What's the history? I mean, have we done this already in the past with them, but just haven't had an agreement in place? Also, liability issues, if there's any extra liability issues on the city. And how far down the chain of command, might be a Bobby question, on how far down the chain of command will the determination be made? Because reading the agreement, it sounds like basically whoever's at the police station in charge that day can make that decision, is what it kind of sounds like to me. Could be mistaken. And then the last one is the 90-day, having to give 90 days to terminate it, and the 5-year length. You can speak to some of those issues.
We have had a agreement. This is either probably the second or third agreement between the City of Boonville and the county in terms of providing it. In most cases, it's a fairly routine kind of process. It's just a matter of kind of manpower. Many of the mutual aid things are for, if you have an automobile accident and you got everybody responding to the accident, you may need a backup person to help control traffic, that kind of thing. And under the law, mutual aid agreements are kind of automatic, but in this one, we felt that there's probably enough of those kind of situations where you would want to have a little bit of more specific roles and responsibilities and obligations. The biggest thing being the record-keeping piece, to have those record-keeping, because we do get sunshine law requests and so forth, and so if you have people outside of your jurisdiction coming in and providing some support, that needs to be properly documented, and it needs to be communicated. So that's kind of a responsibility that both agencies felt like probably needed a little bit better documentation. That's one of the things we changed on this agreement. Liability, the liability does not shift as a result of this agreement. Each organization has rules and regulations in terms of what they can do, what they can't do. These are all official, deputized police officers and county sheriffs within their jurisdiction. If there's always a supervisor who's involved with any kind of chain of command, all of those kind of things. There's somebody who has been appointed in each scene or each event as the agency who's in control. So those things have been well worked out over time, and the county and the police department have those as standard operating procedures. The 90 days, that's part of the thing that we put in there to try to, we debated, Doug Obley and I were the ones who made some changes to the contract based upon some issues that both agencies were a little bit concerned about, the documentation piece. So we tried to put a little bit of a penalty clause, if you will, in there, that if some agency was just routinely not providing the documentation requirements, that was a grounds for terminating the contract. So.
Okay.
How'd I do, Bobby? All right? Okay.
And how about the command and control?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, I understand it's probably based on what the situation. If there's an accident, you need somebody to do traffic, that's one thing. But if it's a big investigation or a big deal, how far up is that going?
Well, this is fairly Believe it or not, this is fairly routine. We've done it the
Okay.
whole 29 years I've been a police officer.
Okay.
And our philosophy at the police department has always been, and always will be, I hope, that if another police officer, law enforcement officer calls for help, we go.
Right.
We'll figure it out later on. Now, if you rise up to the major K squad or something like that, then they would definitely call us. What I don't want is, I don't want our guys delayed going to help another officer to make a phone call somewhere. Our guys are well versed in this. All the supervisors know when we go, how to respond. They will tell us as soon as possible. They will call us as soon as possible. But I don't want any delay on going to help somebody out there that needs help, because I don't want to delay when they're coming to help us.
Right.
This is really fairly routine. The state has a law for mutual aid. It covers us anywhere we go if we're asked to go. And so we just follow our policies and guidelines, but we've done it forever, and our guys are well versed in it. They know what to do, what not to do, when to go, when not to go. So it's just a pretty commonplace thing in law enforcement for us to do. For everybody in the state does it, fire departments, everybody else.
Sure.
So we will have a supervisor oversee it at the soonest possible moment they can let us know. But as soon as they get there, they're probably going to call Randy or Marlene or Joe and say, hey, we're here, okay, let us know what's going on.
Okay.
And then they'll take over from there.
All right, that
Okay.
sounds good, because that's kind of what I was thinking anyway, that we've been doing it, but we've actually been doing it with something in place. We just didn't know it. Okay. All right.
Does that answer all your questions?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Ned?
That helps half of it.
Okay.
The Section 5 power and authority, the operational side, to me, was pretty obvious even reading this. But the language on C and F kind of got me a little bit confused, Megan.
What section are we on, CNF? What section?
Under Section 5, Power and Authority,
Page
page
two.
2 and page 3. Particularly F, Megan. So my question to you is, you've been through this, you've hammered on this and shaped it and bent it and whatever. If you're comfortable with this, I'll stay comfortable with it. But I did get a little confused reading those two sections. Did you have any notes on those, or do you remember anything
I
about
think
them?
probably the best thing to do is why don't you get with me between now and the next meeting, and let's go through it, and if there's something that,
That'll
you know,
work.
if there's enough of a concern that if, you're still having trouble understanding it kind of after we go through the flow, then maybe we do need to change some language to make it, tweak it a little bit. But that was the language that Doug Ibley and I those are the specific two sections that we changed to try to ferret down what the documentation requirements were,
And they
so.
both deal with it on the backside,
Right.
that's
That's
probably
correct.
where
Yeah.
I kind of got lost with it.
Yeah.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you for the offer.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, I guess that maybe in the future, and I don't know if, I guess it will come out eventually, whether it's now or if we would have talked about it next week, but that would have been nice to know that it was routine, that it was something we've done. Because if we don't renew it every 5 years, there's so many of us turn over in 5 years' time. Had no idea I just assumed we were already doing all this stuff just because, like Bobby said, when someone calls, you go. And I thought this was like we'd been doing it forever, so let's throw a contract together since we've been doing it. I didn't realize it was something that we'd been doing all along anyway.
Okay.
So it'd be kind of nice to know, and something like a note to say routine renewal or something.
Okay.
I can amend the ordinance too to put that in there, because that's probably, I kind of tend to do that. I'm kind of a little surprised I didn't put that in the ordinance, but we can certainly do that to say, that this is a revision of a contract and from what year to what year.
Okay.
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for those comments. Reports of standing committees, A and B, NOAA, Industrial Development Authority, and MFA.
Yeah, the notes are in there. As usual, lots going on. That's all coded and hard to talk about, but for the best we can, the notes are in the packet.
Okay. Boonville Housing Authority, Ned.
Another excellent meeting. Bob's operation has once again, Julie, been put at the top top rung of the ladder, and for very good reason. For those of you that get a chance to do the Housing Authority later on, you'll be impressed.
Okay, thank you very much. Planning and zoning, Becky.
Of course, you have the minutes. It was, I thought, a very good meeting. And issues come before this group that came out of some citizens' comments that have come here regarding zoning laws and zoning regulations. I think that this is just the first meeting of probably many to kind of look at this issue and hopefully resolve it.
I guess I would ask, I mean, if somebody asks us about this situation, what would be your best advice right now? Where are we at in the process? I mean, it seems to me from reading the minutes, what was going on is, we're legal, but acceptable under our current ordinances. Is that a true statement? Is that?
Not exactly, no.
Okay.
The problem is, we don't define to the specificity that the current operations are going on in the community with group homes and daycare. We just don't have enough guidance in our zoning regulations to really help us categorize people appropriately. So we may have some situations where there's some homes or some residential locations that are being used more intensively than probably the intent of the zoning regulations. We're just not able to effectively give people coming into the community that want to possibly do something along these lines. We can't really give them super guidance because we just don't define it well enough. But there are probably some very legitimate concerns regarding parking and amount of space and just the comings and goings from a home that probably look different than just a large family. It's different kind of activities. So I'm congealing it, putting it in my head, rolling it around, doing some more research, trying to find out, how much of a change we need to make to our zoning regulations and what seems to be, this is one of those things where it's a judgment call, and it'll eventually come to you all to see if Earl and I and, the folks that are working on this have made the proper call or the proper judgment. Where do you draw the line? I think probably it'll come back to planning and zoning maybe one or two more times to try to get a sense, make sure we're kind of going in the right direction. And I want to do some research on what a few other cities are doing. I want to understand thoroughly the case law. And I've got a phone call into the regional director of the Developmental Disabilities Division of the Department of Mental Health. And I'm going to try to understand exactly what the scope and how these folks are licensed. So trying to get my hands around some of the details so we can make some good judgments.
Okay, great, thanks, awesome feedback, thank you.
As a citizen in Ward 3 and as a councilman, I really appreciate this, that this was brought up, that it was discussed, that it was put on the table and talked about. It wasn't just hidden or forgotten or gone away. Really, this is really good stuff, and it'll lead to something.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Item E, Police Board. Ned?
Great meeting, and some of you probably saw us on TV. Bobby's doing a great thing, and Earl's working with him with this camera stuff for the police officers, and I am just so excited about it, I can't tell you. This is a really good move by our police force to do this, and I honor you, Bobby, for what you're doing, and you're standing up and saying, yes, let's go for it. I just hope we get it done 10 minutes. A little longer than that. Any questions about that? How I feel?
I got one question. Is the policy going to be made public in a way that the public can understand what the use policy is going to be for the cameras?
Yes.
Okay.
As soon as we finalize.
Figure out what it is.
Right now, we're just in the testing and evaluation. So we've tested two, we like one real well. We're testing a third one, we're gonna see what happens. This is not gonna be a real fast issue for us because we have a grant that we've applied for. We won't hear anything on the grant until sometime in November. We could get all of it paid for, we could get part of it paid for, we could get a big zero, so it just depends. If we do get the grant, we won't be able to buy any cameras till January the 1st under the grant. That's when it goes into effect, January 1st to June 30th. So I'm confident by sometime early January, we'll have them out. We still have to go through the policy and work on some issues and just make sure we got everything right. What I don't want to do is put a camera on an officer and send them out there and hope for the best. I want to be well prepared when we do it, make sure we're doing the right thing. All of our guys, to 100% of them, want the camera. They believe it'll help them way more than it would ever, trying to do something wrong. It'll really exonerate them more times than not. So we're 100% on board. We just got to get it all figured out and get it going. And Earl was gracious enough to come up with the money to do it. If we don't get the grant, keep your fingers crossed on the grant and see what happens.
And yes, we did have a draft of the policy. Now, it's way far away from being ready, but Bobby was kind enough to give us a draft to take a look at the board, and we gave him some comments, and we'll probably give him some more in the next couple of meetings.
It's just, I think it's always good to let the public know what the baseline expectation of everybody is. We can go from there. Thank you.
Good question,
Very good.
Noah.
Okay. And I'm curious how Brett Cooper could be both present and absent.
That's my mistake. I do the minutes.
I just want to know how he did it.
Popping in and out.
Yeah, he wasn't at the beginning of the meeting, but he made it to the end.
Reports of city officials, city administrator, Earl?
Okay, I want to touch once again on the administration building. We continue to process, although maybe we haven't taken any tangible steps in the last couple of weeks, but I think the scenario is clearing up and becoming more evident in our minds conceptually, if anything else. And I'll let Megan and Kate speak very briefly, but Kate can give us an update on the inspection report that was done in order for us to qualify or establish a baseline on the property and what needs to be cleaned up. And then Megan has done quite a bit of work lately on what we need to do and why and how to get it into sort of an innocent party's hands for at least an interim while we apply for the grant and clean it up. So Kate, you can give us a quick synopsis on the inspection thing, which sort of kicks the process off.
You remember we applied through Missouri Department of Natural Resources. We basically asked them to do a phase one, which is a service that they provide free. It's an agreement from the feds and the state. They put in money to do these phase one and phase two, which is the sort of environmental investigation as to what's there. The folks from Siegel Environmental were here a couple weeks ago. The report, it's pretty much done. I had a call from DNR that she had a draft report and she was going to go ahead and let them know that they could finalize it and that we would get the electronic versions. The way the law works, the time starts ticking, so we have 6 months for if you remember, we have a community development corporation created that is standing by eagerly awaiting to take ownership of the building and help us clean it up. We have 6 months to move that through the process because that's how long the phase one is good for, because in 6 months something could have happened to make it worse. So that's the reason why there's a time frame. We have not actually gotten it in the email yet, so our time has not started ticking quite yet, but I expect that we'll probably get it this week or next. So the Boone Slick CDC has created, it's in good standing with the state. It also just recently received notification that it's also now a 501c3 through the IRS. So they have done all of their things that they need to do at this point in time to go ahead and take ownership. They are doing a little bit of research in terms of getting insurance and those sort of things. And of course, we'll work with them to make sure it all works in the right way, but they're ready to take it. So, and then Megan is doing the legwork on.
Right, I'm in the
details.
process of preparing 4 documents: a contract for sale of real estate, a deed, what I'm loosely terming a project management contract, so we all understand what the scope of what the CDC will do during their ownership time, and I will prepare a number of recommendations for the board at the Boonville CDC, or Boonslick CDC, to advise them on what kind of resolutions and documents and so forth they kind of need to do on their end to make it all appropriate for acceptance and so forth. There are some changes to the law recently in terms of accepting the deed, and there's some formalities that have to be done. So I'm just kind of working on a couple of the fine-tuning some of the language so we make sure that everybody's clear on what it is we're doing exactly, why it is we're doing it, and at what point in time the project will be completed. I did make contact kind of through this process with a couple folks, and the city of Cape Girardeau has done something extraordinarily similar. So I'm waiting to hear back from them and get a couple documents. So hopefully that'll give me a little guidance.
That was kind of reassuring since they've already done it and it apparently worked. So,
Yep.
so anyway, so we hope to have something on the next agenda, I think. So.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. Mayor, I have nothing. City Councilor, Megan?
Nothing further this evening.
Economic Development, Dr. Gann. It seems like you were just here. Bless me.
I don't have very many things. Oh, thank you, Mayor, Council. I don't have much to report since I was here 2 weeks ago, and then one of the intervening weeks I was off. But I would like to draw your attention to a few things on the October 16th report. First of all, item 4A, Morris, I did meet with the gentleman that you sent me, and we had a very good meeting. He's now doing some more homework, but I wanted to let you know that that had happened. Item 4B, we have some events coming up that are going to be regional scoped events that are going to be entrepreneurial in nature to build entrepreneurial culture. The first event is on February 27th is a bit of an uplifting event with meeting. It's more of a presentation type event where entrepreneurs will get to rub shoulders with successful entrepreneurs in a presentation type setting. The second event, of which I'm chairing for the core region, will be on April 10th, which will be a series of pitch contests. So we'll be having a pitch contest here locally at a date yet to be determined prior to that. The thought being is the local winners of each of the 5 counties will be able to play into the bigger prize money that will be in Columbia on April 10th. Also on item, if you could move your attention to item 6A, I've been talking to you about the creation of an alternative energy technician training program at the Boonslick Technical Education Center. I've recently met with all of the high school counselors in the county. They're thrilled about this prospect. We are finding great alignment between the Boonslick Technical Education Center, State Fair Community College, and the University of Central Missouri in Warrensburg in this program. The governor was here for a visit and got to hear some of the points of this and is thrilled about what's going on. To our knowledge, this is the second program in the United States that is for this at the secondary school level. So Boonville in that regard will be a trendsetter, and this is in support of some of the industries that we're working on bringing to town. So we're really proud of how that is moving forward. And I'll also remind you that we were awarded a $100,000 grant by the Missouri Department of Economic Development to help move this forward. So that's been received, or we haven't received the money yet, but we've received the letter of commitment. Item 6B related to workforce is work-ready communities. I did write a proposal, and we did receive some grant dollars from the University of Missouri to, again, have certified work-ready community testing paid for of our the folks in the Boonslick Technical Education Center. So that was very nice. I'll move on to item 7G. We do have a site. We believe we will be having a site visit from a Project Roma, Councilman Heaton, that we will be having a site visit concerning one of our industrial buildings in town. That is not yet scheduled, but we're working through a whole series of intermediaries to schedule that visit. So I wanted you to be aware that that's happening. Item 9B, the last Thursday, the Municipal Facilities Authority approved all of the documents surrounding the revolving loan fund. I'm in the process of writing a press release, so you will be seeing that in the local media. That will soon be available. The process will begin by an applicant coming to City Hall and meeting either with Kate or myself. And then once we've explained the process, given them the list of documents in the application, the applicant will then interact with the Economic Development Corporation out of Columbia, and she will come here to meet with them. So it'll be a bit of an arm's length thing for us. That's all the things I wanted to highlight, unless you have questions that I can respond to.
Are the Boom events open to the public?
They are.
When we get closer, will you have a date and time?
I will. So we're in the planning stages now for both.
Okay.
Good. Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. City Clerk, Mary?
I have nothing to report.
Okay, miscellaneous? Ned?
Just so that Steve won't panic, I have a couple of quick questions.
Quick questions.
Where do we stand on the trees, Mrs. Inspeed, trees?
On the what?
You know?
The trees out on
Santa Fe?
Santa Fe up by Harley Park. I believe they're all gone now, aren't they?
Are they gone? No, last week, 3 of them have been removed, and we addressed the issue to remove the rest of them prior to tonight. It's my understanding that the property owner had contracted with a local tree service to move those trees, but evidently didn't tell us that until after the first 3 had been taken out. And but if they're gone.
Yeah, I drove by there this weekend and they're
Great.
gone. All 6 of them.
And a reminder to all of us here present, the Cherry Street Development public meeting is being held tomorrow in Columbia. I do intend to go. Is there anybody else on the council that's going to go?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday?
Yeah.
It's the 22nd. Oh, boy. That's kind of cool. Anyway, I may not go.
So I won't go with you tomorrow.
No, don't do that. I'm
Been a
glad you
long
told me
way.
it was Wednesday instead of tomorrow, because I set everything up to.
But I am
to
planning
go
on
tomorrow.
attending.
Okay, I'll get you my notes. I may not be able to go on Wednesday, so I'm glad I brought that up. Thank you. I think that's really important. There's an awful lot of folks that are not real happy about that happening.
They also can write letters
I-
expressing their opinions, and I believe it says to address them to me, and then I just turn them over to.
As I remember, that's correct. And wasn't there also an option in there for some sort of a petition, I think?
I don't know,
I'm
but they can
kinda
certainly
fuzzy
write
on it. I got it
letters.
sitting on my desk. I'll
Yeah.
take a look.
They can write letters, pro or con,
Okay.
about it, and turn those in, and there's a longer period, I believe. It's not by Wednesday, but it's after that.
I'll give you a call. No, I'll let you know what I've got planned. Thank you. Those were all I had, Steve. Good job.
Well, since Ned didn't have much tonight, I do have one thing I want to tell you about. This is what I did today. You might not know this, but this week was Manufacturing Week. And the local Caterpillar plant had a little soiree and invited some of us to come out and walk through, take a tour of their facility. And Jim Gann and Wilbert Meyer and myself were part of the group that was invited to go out. And we can be so proud of this facility. They do a great job. It is, a lot of the equipment is state-of-the-art that's just been brought over from Germany. A lot of the pieces were brand new or from England 2 years ago or whatever. So it is a wonderful manufacturing plant right here in our community. And I will say, he was showing some slides. Steve Peters, the head of the operation here, was showing some slides, and it had employment numbers. And the first one was management, and that was 16. And the second one was laborers, and that was 200. And the bottom one was Volt, which is a part-time company that they kind of bring people in for, and I think that was 40. And he looked at it and he said, oh no, that's not right. He said, we have 300 workers now, not 200.
Awesome.
So you can see which way their numbers are going. They're definitely hiring more people. And so I was very pleased, and I think Jim and Wilbert were impressed. And so if you have a chance, the people that work out there, tell them thanks for what they're doing and keep up the good work. So, any other miscellaneous? If not, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.